1942. A fierce battle is about to unfold on the Eastern Front of World War II, one that will define the course of the conflict and leave a great mark on history. This is the Battle of Stalingrad. Stalingrad, a strategic city on the Volga River, is more than just a military target. It is a symbol of Soviet resolve. It will be a battle not for just the city, but for the very soul of the Soviet Union. The battle began in the summer of 1942. Adolf Hitler has set his sights on Stalingrad, a vital industrial hub and transport center in southern Russia. For the Germans, capturing it would ensure the control of the region's oil fields and severely cripple the Soviet war effort. German forces under the command of General Friedrich Paulus began their advance into the city. The German Sixth Army, along with allied Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian forces, are determined to crush any Soviet resistance, but the Soviets had their own plans. Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin orders the city to be held at all costs. Every available soldier, civilian, and even the city's children are pressed into service to defend Stalingrad. The Red Army, led by General Vasily Chuikov, takes up defensive positions within the city, transforming it into a fortress. Streets, buildings, and factories become fortresses, and every inch of the ground will be fought for. On August 23, 1942, the German Luftwaffe bombed Stalingrad, reducing much of the city to rubble. The air is filled with screams of civilians and buildings collapses, and fire rages across the city, but the Soviets do not break. The German advance into Stalingrad is met with fierce resistance. The battle for every street, every building, and every room begins. What was once a thriving industrial city is now a hellscape where soldiers engage in brutal close-quarters combat. The Germans are bogged down, unable to break through Soviet lines. Fighting in the rubble of Stalingrad is unlike anything the world has seen. The Germans have the advantage in numbers, equipment, and air superiority, but the Soviets fight with a relentless ferocity. Inside buildings, in the stairwells, behind barricades, no place is safe. Snipers decisively pick off Germans from the shadows. Soviet infantry, with their backs to the Volga River, use ruins as cover to launch surprise attacks. One of the most iconic and intense battles of Stalingrad takes place in the tractor factory. It is here that the Germans and Soviets will engage in brutal house-to-house struggle. The factory itself becomes a symbol of resistance, and the fighting around it will be relentless. The Germans think that they are on the verge of victory, but the Soviets are determined not to yield. By November of 1942, the situation had taken a dramatic turn. The Germans are spread thin, and their supply lines have stretched. In a bold move, the Soviets launch Operation Uranus, a massive counteroffensive aimed at encircling the German forces in Stalingrad. The Germans are caught off guard. Soviet forces strike at the weak points in the German defenses. The German forces are now surrounded. The winter of 1942 and 1943 is one of the harshest in history. Temperatures plummet to minus 40 degrees Celsius. Both sides are unprepared for the severity of the cold. Supplies runs low, and the conditions in the encircled German forces grow desperate. German soldiers, already exhausted and malnourished, begin to succumb to the freezing temperatures. The Soviets, by contrast, are able to rely on their knowledge of the land, their supply lines along the Volga River, and the will of their leadership to survive in the harsh temperatures. By early February of 1943, generals and the staff of the German command realized the hopelessness of their position. They began to discuss a surrender, but Hitler, stubborn to the end, refuses to allow a surrender. Despite this, as food, ammunition, and medical supplies dwindle, German soldiers begin to break. On February 2, 1943, General Paulus, now a prisoner of war, ordered his remaining forces to surrender. The Battle of Stalingrad is over. The Battle of Stalingrad is one of the bloodiest battles in history, with estimates of over 2 million people killed, wounded, or captured. The Soviets have won, but at an immense cost. Stalingrad lies in ruins, and the Soviet Union is scared by the loss of so many of its citizens. But the Germans too have paid a heavy price. Over 90,000 Axis soldiers are captured, and the German Sixth Army is decimated. Stalingrad marks the beginning of the end of Nazi Germany. The tide of the war on the Eastern Front has turned decisively in favor of the Soviets. The defeat at Stalingrad will haunt Germany for the rest of the war. The loss of an entire army is a devastating blow to the Wehrmacht, and Hitler's grip on his generals begins to falter. The Soviets, emboldened by their victory, will go on the offensive, pushing the Germans back across the Eastern Front in a series of successful campaigns. Stalingrad is not just a turning point in the war, it is a turning point in history. The sacrifices of the soldiers, the civilians, and the leaders of both sides in this battle will resonate for generations. Today, Stalingrad, now Volgograd, is a city of peace, but the legacy of the battle lives on. Monuments and memorials stand to honor the 2 million plus soldiers that have fallen there, reminding the world of the price of war and the resilience of those who fought for survival. The Battle of Stalingrad is not just a battle for the city, it was a battle for the future of Europe and for the future of the world. And in the end, it was the will of the Soviet people that prevailed that helped the victory. The Battle of Stalingrad was a turning point in history. It was a testament to the courage, sacrifice, and determinations of those who fought and the reminder of the cost of war.